Okay, so in that first podcast, we just looked at the first part of the poem. We looked at that contrast, both in the content and the actual form, the sound, the use of language, the contrast between the softness of this book, this page, this harebell, and the fuss of such and such a day, the disagreement in its final word. You've got that memory, and you've got the memory of the way we were, but also that maybe things weren't so good. You know, that days were tough, you know, they were fussy, and the disagreements. And then it goes on, your inventory of names and dates and times, my inventories of tall, dark, handsome lies. What we learn from that is that maybe he cheated on her. Again, we don't know, do we? I mean, we're only guessing here. But it sounds like he cheated on her. My inventories of tall, dark, handsome lies. That he lied to her as a tall, dark, handsome man. And the inventory of names and dates and times suggests that maybe she was keeping track of him, that she was keeping tabs on him, that she was somehow suspicious, and therefore she followed him and kept tabs and dates and times. So the past wasn't so good. Those years maybe weren't so good. But then look at the contrast in the next stanza. A decade on, now we astound ourselves. Still two, still twinned but doubled now with love. And for a single night apart alone, how sure we are, each of the other half. A decade on, so it's been 10 years. Why do they astound ourselves? Well, maybe because they're still two, they're still together, still twinned and doubled, but doubled now with love. That's interesting that they're still twinned, they're still together, and it's as if their love itself has doubled through the years. That the difficulties that they went through, the challenges they went through, his seeming infidelity, unfaithfulness, her lack of trust in him, it seems that they've got through all that, and 10 years on they are strong and very much together. And for a single night apart alone, how sure we are each of the other half. Even when they're apart, they fully trust one another. They're sure of each other's love. This particular stanza actually reminds me of a poem by John Donne. I'm just going to show you the ending of the poem. It's called A Valediction Forbidding Mourning. It's an old poem, you can see that. John Donne is known as a metaphysical poet. A poet who was very interested in religion, but also very interested in how people worked, how they ticked. And if we just look at the end, and it's about love. It's about two people who were in love. And I'm just going to look at these last few lines, the lines of the poem here. Our two souls therefore which are one, though I must go, endure not yet a breach, but an expansion like gold to airy thinness beat. If they be two, they are two so as stiff twin compasses are two. Thy soul, the fixed foot, makes no show to move, but doth, if the other do. And then it goes right to the end there. Thy firmness makes my circle just, and makes me end where I begun. It's a very beautiful end to the poem. And you can see that there's a real sense of comparison here. I think Simon Armitage is borrowing the ideas from John Donne's Valediction. Look again. For a single night apart alone, how sure we are each of the other half. Still twinned but doubled now with love. We get that sense of the language being very almost metaphysical in its nature. Look at the last stanza. This harebell holds its own. What does that mean? It holds its own. Well, if to hold your own means to be self-contained, to be able to look after yourself, this harebell holds its own. It's as if the harebell itself has been able to cope with those years. It's been able to remain intact within the pages of the book. Let's give it now in air with light, the chance to fade to fold. Here, take it from my hand now, let it go. Very beautiful ending. Let go of the harebell. Let go of the past. Let's move on. Let's let go of the things that we struggled with through the first 10 years of our relationship, our marriage, and let's move on. Okay, in the next podcast, what I'll do is I'll look a little bit at the language and the structure of the poem.